Alright, so let's discuss Avalon door frames. So, regarding these, they're a little different than the Raco brand ones that I had in a different video. These, we're missing some pieces. We gotta go find or make some from, they sent us the wrong door originally for this. But we're supposed to have some clips that work better for here, but they also sent us the wrong pieces for here. But I'm making them work. We just had to make some modifications to this channel and cut our king stud slightly. One sec. Okay, cutting done. So there's multiple different ways to do this. Like this shallow piece is what they gave us for the heads on all of these, which didn't work with what we had. So when they sent us this wrong frame, they sent us a different system for this new one, which includes this deeper channel. Let me grab a piece actually. Looks like this. And so we slipped that up on the head and screwed it in nice and level right there across the top there. And then next we got our wall in that piece over there, and then this side we had our hinge jamb, which same thing, it's the same piece but with door stop and hinges. Got that screwed in nice and leveled up. The way these Avalons are designed, the header actually nestles in between. Oh, anyway, okay, so the header nestles in between like so, and then this butts up to that, so it's a little more difficult than the way a Raco is, where this would all be like one continuous piece here, and then you would just screw clips only to set the header. But anyways, I'm digressing. So then what makes these more of a pain besides that is this bottom. They actually design each and every side light to have its own separate bottom piece that goes in between, and we ended up cutting the wrong pieces for a lot of those. We ended up cutting that sort of flat piece. See, that's what they sent us originally for the bottom, and for the top, and we thought that was the bottom because it came in longer lengths, the way this did for the top, and we thought it was for the bottom because it's just been a while. We don't deal with Avalon very frequently, so that was a goof on our part. We do screw up. We are human. Luckily they sent us a couple wrong frames, and we were able to rob Peter to pay Paul, since they sent me this frame completely wrong. They sent me almost a 9-foot wide frame with side lights, and it was just supposed to be a single 9-foot wide. And basically they sent me a frame like this, so we were able to steal. Oh, they had those also for the they had some flat pieces. Sorry, they didn't send us that for the bottom. They sent us some flat pieces, which I don't have any up here because we're already done with the rest. But the flat pieces were supposed to be for the mullions, and then they had a snap cap that went on each side. So, and they had a snap cap that went on each side for the window. In fact, let me show you those real quick, what they ended up looking like. So, you can see this was this was a separate snap cap there for each side. And now the way this is the way I requested it, more or less, for the remaining doors for downstairs, because dealing with the way the floor is too crappy, we wanted something more than just a little flat piece for the bottom. So I requested these channels instead to provide more support. But basically, you can see I shimmed out the floor because floor float was not done beforehand. But then they sent us the wrong frame, so then it ended up being done after. But you can see I cut they could have carpeted all the way up to here with the relief I cut them, but oh well. That was supposed to help them with floor float, so they could just trowel right off of that and then put their carpet in. But, and I'm kind of getting sidetracked again, apologies. So we put in these channels here. They're an 1/8 off because this floor slopes so much that we can't hold it level, because they would have had about 7/8 of floor float over here. So what we did that was our high point, thankfully. We dropped 1/8 to right there. Our undercut dropped 1/8, dropped another 1/8, dropped another 1/8, dropped another 1/8, dropped another 1/8. And so we ate up all but about 1/4 of an inch, roughly, of floor float for them. And because that's roughly the window guy's tolerance is 1/8 per pane without having to do a crooked cut. So that's what we gave them, was 1/8 per, which was the maximum for the window guys, and that was the maximum we could give the carpet guys to minimize their floating. So that's what these little blocks are. Was where I needed these to sit in order for our trim to sit on top of the carpet rather than the carpet butting into it. Especially because obviously the carpet is done now before we did our... So we didn't want to have to be cutting carpet. But if you do have carpet installed already, that actually makes it easy, because then you can sit right on top of it, provided your floor is hopefully pretty level. And then you can see what I did was we put this on both ends, and we snapped a chalk line. We used orange because it's a lot more visible, and it'll just dust away. But we did that to get our nice straight lines to center in between. And then we measured out our window distances. They should be pre-cut, but you always gotta check in the field. And so we had a little bit of undercut on each one to make them even. Or not undercut, just trim cut to make them even. But you put this, what you have to do to install these is you have to install your base first and anchor it. And then in this instance with these, it's similar with the other pieces we had. They would have a bunch of ribs in it, just like that, but it's flat. And then you slide these two 90 clips inside. You have to butt your window mullion, which this would have been another flat piece. But you would butt this up to it. And make sure you're tight to your head. After undercutting this what you need it to be, and then screw them in nice and flush, and then get it tight. And Avalon's video shows that you should just be able to, in these little grooves here, just hit it with like a punch or something to lock it down. But they also provide screw holes, obviously, which works since we have wood. Or you could take a Hilti BX3 or something, fast track, whatever, and just pop a nail in each one. If it's concrete or steel below, whatever you got, that locks this in. And then inside up there, since we would have that flat piece like that with all the channels, we would just put clips inside of it the same way like this to screw to here, and then the snap cap would go over. Wait, was that the right one? Yeah, but instead, and then we'd have snap caps that cover the clip up there. But in this case, since we do not have snap caps up there, that is our finished product, we can't screw it right there. So what we actually had to do was, inside of these, that's the same piece as this. So we had to put these 290 clips inside of here vertically, slide them up to there, make sure, hang on, I can turn this off now, we're wasting battery. Square this up and screw the clip up inside of here. And then afterwards, you'll take this, let me go back. Afterwards, we'll take this second piece here and screw it on to make a complete mullion. And so then we have that. Then you move on to your next section. So it's kind of like putting together a Lego or an erector set or something, instead of one piece and you just put these in, blah, blah, blah. No, this one you actually have to go sill, mullion, sill, mullion, sill, mullion. It's kind of annoying, instead of just putting a continuous track across the bottom and then just setting these where they go. And so with this, these were actually taller, and see, you can break them off right here. The first one is 5/8, and then this one is half. But since these are shallow, these pieces are shallow here, we had to break off the first one in order to get it to 2 inches. Otherwise, it would have been too much. And see, we were able to do this in order to get this lined up with our previous mullion. You can do that right there to help get you lined up. And in this instance, we put a little screw, or you could use, you know, a nail gun for concrete or whatever, just to tack it in place, and then get your Tapcons put that down. You see, that's going to be right there eventually. But you can see after you got that, put that plate down, screw it in from the sides, and then we have 2 individual snap caps here to make it look like so. Then after that, we'll come back and trim it out. This one's gonna have basically, this trim is supposed to go all the way to the top, and then this trim butts into that, goes all the way to there and butts into the far jamb at the door. And then these mullion trim caps will go up to that, to the floor. And then all of those caps, trim caps, will go in here between the mullion snap caps. So it's kind of complicated, but it's complicated and it's tedious, but it still goes together. So I personally prefer the Raco. I think they go a lot faster, and they're a little easier to do. Like, these gaps aren't quite, these gaps are a little bigger on the Raco style. And you can see here, the clips for your snap caps are here, and then it just sits flat here. And what I don't like about that is that if your wall is flared out, like when you have expansion joints here and they have to float that, you can see it kind of flares it out a little bit, which sucks. And then if you try to bend it back in, it kind of busts the drywall finish. Well, you can see this is what happens with your trim. There's just no way to, they don't have a snap over here. They're both on this side, so there's no way to hold that tight. Come on, focus. Let me get around that wire. Okay, so yeah, you can see I just can't get it to stay tight there. And they're also more difficult to take off because you got this whole flat section, so they're easier to bend when trying to take them off, and that just doesn't work out very well. So, and then like here with this mullion piece, the other half of this, we had to break it off in there for the hinge plates. So that's something you got to pay attention to. And then on this one, we had to drill out inside, or cut our framing and sheetrock inside for these and for the electronics to come through. So, and we'll find where that screw went, but